Hello Internet! Welcome to Technically Not a Game Theory, the show where the only maidens we have are photon maidens. We also couldn't decide whether to make this a game theory or a film theory, seeing how D4DJ is a multimedia project spanning games, shows, and live performances. But with all the reading you do for these stories, it might just join the ranks of FNAF and pseudo-book theory. And if you don't know what D4DJ is, it's this neat little show that centers on groups of DJ units that compete in this big tournament called D4 Fest, standing for Dig Delight Direct Drive Festival. Anyways, all alliteration aside, about 80% of the time is downtime for this festival, and in that downtime, they're usually trying to better their performances, just hanging out, or, well, in one case, getting stranded on an island. But while it may seem pretty average and standard on the surface, I think there's some hidden lore! That's right, and a quick disclaimer, I know that game theory now is a lot more focused on finding the developer's true intentions and hidden lore, but just for today, I'm going back to my roots of confirmation bias for theories that are more for fun than to make a concrete claim. So theorists, buckle up, because we're boarding the Galaxy Express 39 for a journey to the stars. If the opening didn't make it clear enough, today I wanted to cover the unit Photon Maiden. Totally not biased towards their sciencey name, by the way. But the theory I have for you today revolves around a specific character, their DJ, Saki. She's a character that's got synesthesia, which is a phenomenon where she sees colors when listening to music. And that synesthesia is a real-life phenomenon, although not to the very exaggerated extent that it's portrayed in here. No theorists, that could be a whole theory on its own. Because what I want to talk to you about today is her cat. Yep, because with a character who can literally see sounds and hear colors like a superpower, we're going to talk about her ordinary cat. But it's not a very ordinary cat, actually, because Saki, on top of having synesthesia, is a big ol' nerd. She loves science, specifically pertaining to space, but apparently not limited to just that because she named her cat Schrodinger, in the most blatant reference to Schrodinger's cat you've ever seen. A round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Now, for those of you who don't know, Schrodinger's cat is a thought experiment by Erwin Schrodinger, where you have a cat in a box with a mechanism that has a constant 50% chance to instantly kill the cat. In his specific case, it was a radioactive substance that, when it decays, it either kills the cat by poison or explosion. But the point of this thought experiment is not merely to torture a cat. It is to examine the cat from our perspective. You see, the box has no windows, is soundproof, and does not in any way tell us whether the cat has died. To us, at least, the cat is effectively both alive and dead until we go to check on it. What's interesting is that they give an in-universe explanation for why she named her cat Schrodinger, specifically because it was half black and half white. I get the symbolism, a single cat representing polar opposite outcomes with polar opposite colors, but I think it can go a layer deeper. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is what leads me to my theory today: there is no Schrodinger. For evidence point number 1, Schrodinger never shows up. Like, not once. And you might think that's just because there are too many characters and they couldn't possibly spend time writing about one of the characters' pets, and I would normally agree if they didn't already do that several times. There is an entire episode dedicated to Toa's dog, Milkrape, and if you wanted specifically a cat, then we not only have a card story, but multiple episodes of an event story that prominently feature Ibuki's cat, Daifuku-sama. But technically not MatPat, I hear you typing. Those are other pets. What if Schrodinger just isn't as important? First of all, be careful where you say that. The stance in this series might not take too kindly to that. And second of all, that's actually why him not showing up is so suspicious. It's because, like the other pets, he had an entire episode dedicated to him, but he doesn't even show up. In the story, Saki misses her cat so much that the other members think it's love troubles. The other members ask her about it, and the misunderstanding is cleared up and everyone moves on. Everyone except for me, that is. What's the point in a pet story without the pet? Well, the pet is still central to the plot, but his absence is more important than his being there, which brings me to my next point: Saki's obsession with cats. In this series, heck, even in this unit, liking cats is a standard. Noah freaks out over them because they're cute. Ibuki is attached to the ones at her shrine. But Saki, well, she's on a whole different level. She can recognize and differentiate cats better than most, she's constantly noticing strays, and when she meets Ibuki's cat, she starts bringing him offerings regularly. She also lets her guard down around cats the most, which isn't uncommon nowadays, though I still find it worth mentioning. But why would this be evidence against Schrodinger's existence? If anything, isn't it more likely that Saki would get a cat because she loves them so much? Or could it be the exact opposite? that she likes cats so much because she doesn't have one herself. When talking about Ibuki's cat, she goes out of her way to compare it to her cat. Even Ibuki notices that Saki is slightly defensive towards Schrodinger, insisting that he's just as cute as Daifuku-sama. Maybe she's trying too hard to convince people that Schrodinger is real? But wait a minute, even when she's alone and noticing a stray cat, she again compares it to Schrodinger. And in the episode where she misses him and the other members notice, she wasn't doing it to mislead them. She didn't even know she was being watched. And that should tell us that she's not lying, right? Well, not exactly. That just tells us she's not putting on a facade to fool others. But it doesn't rule out the possibility that she's lying to herself. With this in mind, think back to her behavior involving cats, and it takes on a whole new light with the lens that she's pretending Schrodinger exists. Why does she love cats so much? Because she's always wanted one. Why does she treat Ibuki's cat so well? Because she doesn't have her own cat to spoil. Why is she so quick to bring him up when it's not related? Because she's trying to convince herself that Schrodinger is real. Another piece of evidence that I would like to bring up is the first line of navigation cards that they released. They're actually what got me going on this theory in the first place. Ibuki's card has, among other references to her character, her cat, Daifuku-sama, plastered right on it. But in Saki's card, Schrodinger is nowhere to be seen. Instead, we get this plush. To many, that's a pretty big disappointment. We got to see Ibuki's cat, so why not Saki's? But what if I told you that plushie is Schrodinger? Not literally, of course, but a surrogate for the pet she couldn't have. So, is that the theory? She's pretending she has a cat in order to cope with the fact that she doesn't? Well, normally that's where I could leave it, but I want to go back to the name, Schrodinger. Sure, the symbolism between black and white, life and death, and the color of the cat's fur is possible, but I think it connects more deeply than that. And here's where a branch in the theory comes up. I think there's another way that this could have played out. My personal theory is that Saki did indeed have a cat. Emphasis on did. But this wasn't Schrodinger. At least, not yet. One day, as pets do, her cat reached the end of its rope. But Saki was still young, not emotionally developed yet, and so she coped in a way that fits her, using a famous thought experiment. Hoping to emulate that box, that unfeeling, untelling box, she refused to acknowledge her cat's death. And to her, as long as she didn't acknowledge it, he was both alive and dead at the same time. As long as she didn't open that box, Schrodinger was at least a little bit alive. For some, the memories of those long past live on in our hearts. And for Saki, Schrodinger lives on in that box. But hey, that's just a theory. A fake theory. Please don't sue me.